If you think you already know what women want to hear, you are about to be shocked. Most men spend their lives repeating the same empty lines, the same cliches, thinking that a compliment about looks or charm will win her attention. And yet, no matter how much effort they put in, they are forgotten the moment she walks away. You've been lied to. You've been fed half-truths about attraction, confidence, and connection. But today, I'm going to tell you the real truth. Truths that most men will never understand, and that most women have been silently waiting to hear from the right kind of man. This is not about money. This is not about flashy cars, social status, or trying to compete with younger men. This is about presence. This is about words that carry weight. This is about compliments that make her feel seen, understood, and valued in ways she never thought possible. By the end of this video, you will know exactly what to say, how to say it, and why women respond differently to older men who have mastered themselves. You will understand the subtle psychology that separates the men she remembers from the men she forgets. And let me warn you, these are not the lines you hear anywhere else. Nobody teaches this. Nobody breaks it down this clearly. If you listen closely and apply these truths, your presence will become unforgettable, your words will carry power, and the connection you create will be deeper, more magnetic, and impossible to ignore. So stay with me until the very end, because once you understand this, your relationships, your conversations, and the way women perceive you will change forever. This isn't advice, it's a revelation. And if you miss it, you'll never know the subtle forces that make women truly drawn to men like you. Women don't fall for older men because of age. This is something so many men misunderstand. Society loves to make you think that youth, looks, or charm are the ultimate weapons in attraction, but what we're talking about here is deeper, far more powerful, and almost entirely invisible on the surface. Women are drawn to the way a man makes them feel, and older men have an advantage most younger men will never understand. It's not in the wrinkles, the gray hair, or the lines of experience. It's in the emotional depth, the calm authority, and the self-possession that comes from having lived, failed, reflected, and grown. Think about it. A woman meets a younger man who is physically attractive, confident in a superficial way, maybe even witty. She might feel a spark, she might enjoy his energy, but it is fleeting. There's excitement in youth, yes, but excitement alone does not build lasting admiration, respect, or deep emotional connection. What she remembers, what she craves, is a presence that steadies her, that sees her without needing to perform, without needing to impress, without judgment. This is what older men naturally carry when they've done the work on themselves, when they have learned to navigate their own emotions and understand human nature. An older man who has mastered himself doesn't chase. He chooses. He doesn't need to seek validation because he is already whole. And this completeness, this self-contained strength, radiates in subtle ways, through his voice, through his posture, through his words. When he speaks, it matters. When he listens, he hears. When he compliments, it is not empty. It is a recognition of her essence. Women feel this instinctively. They feel when a man's attention is grounded in depth, in understanding, in presence, and not in ego-driven desire. It's not just about making her feel good in the moment. It's about making her feel seen. There is a difference between noticing that she looks beautiful and noticing the rhythm of her thoughts, the way she carries herself, the quiet intelligence in her laughter. Older men who understand this speak in a way that touches the core of a woman's psychology. They validate, they respect, they awaken. And this is why the age itself is irrelevant. She doesn't care if you have gray hair or a few more years on your back. What she feels in your presence, what she experiences in your words and energy, is what creates attraction. Consider the quiet power in emotional stability. Younger men are often reactive. They are fire but uncontrolled, dazzling but fleeting. Older men are a steady flame. A woman senses this. She feels safe. She feels seen. She feels understood. And when a woman feels this way, her attention is no longer scattered. Her curiosity, her admiration, her desire to be near you grows naturally, organically, because you have entered a space in her mind and heart that few men ever reach. This is the subtle art of influence, the psychology of attraction that transcends superficial appearances. It is also philosophical when you think about it. Attraction is not a transaction, it is an experience, and experiences are emotional. The man who understands himself, who has built internal authority and clarity, creates an emotional environment that a woman wants to inhabit. He doesn't need to convince her, he doesn't need to perform, and he certainly doesn't need to compete with younger, more frivolous attention. He simply is. And that, more than any charm, any pickup line, or any display of wealth or youth, is what draws her in. So if you are an older man, understand this. Your advantage is not the number of years behind you, it is the depth you have cultivated within them. Your ability to hold your own, to speak with clarity, to listen with intent, and to carry yourself with calm authority. This is what women respond to. Stop focusing on what society tells you lack. Stop competing on the shallow battlefield of appearances. Instead, focus on your presence, your depth, and the way you make her feel, because when you master this, age becomes irrelevant and attraction becomes inevitable. Remember this, women don't fall for older men because of age. They fall for the experience, the calm strength, and the emotional depth that only time, reflection, and self-mastery can create. Be that man, and you won't have to chase her attention. She will lean in, she will remember your words, and she will never forget the way you made her feel. The second truth every man must understand is that women are not moved by empty flattery. They do not respond to compliments that are designed to inflate their ego alone. What captivates a woman, what makes her attention linger, is when you speak to her mind, her essence, her unique way of seeing the world. This is where older men have a profound advantage, the ability to recognize depth, subtlety, and the invisible layers that younger men often overlook. When you compliment her on something meaningful, you are not simply giving her praise, you are affirming her reality, her value, her experience. And that creates a connection that goes far beyond the surface. Most men think a compliment is enough if it is polished or clever, but the truth is, a compliment has power only when it resonates with authenticity. Telling her, "You look beautiful," is expected. Telling her, "I admire how you approach challenges," is rare, and it speaks to her soul. It signals that you are paying attention not to the mask she presents, but to the person she truly is. When you do this, you are not performing, you are recognizing, and recognition is a fundamental psychological need. Every human longs to be truly seen, and women, perhaps more than men, feel the intensity of being noticed for who they are beyond appearances. There is a subtle psychology at play here. When a woman hears a compliment that speaks to her intelligence, her creativity, or the depth of her character, it bypasses the superficial defenses that society has conditioned her to maintain. Most people throw compliments as currency, as a way to manipulate or impress. A woman senses this instantly. She can feel when words are transactional versus when words are sincere. An older man who understands this does not need to speak lavishly. He does not need to use excessive praise. He speaks with precision, clarity, and authenticity. And in that moment, his words become magnets, not noise. Consider how this works in real life. When you acknowledge a woman's insight during a conversation, you are doing something far more profound than boosting her ego. You are creating a mental space where she feels understood and respected. You are signaling that her thoughts have weight, that her perspective matters, and that her inner life is compelling. This is not flattery. It is validation of her existence in its truest form. And once she feels this, her mind and heart naturally open to you. She begins to associate your presence with clarity, intelligence, and emotional resonance. There is also a philosophical element here. Humans are social creatures, yet modern life has trained us to exist behind screens, behind masks, behind carefully curated versions of ourselves. Authentic recognition becomes rare, almost revolutionary, when you, as an older man, take the time to deliver a compliment that is precise, meaningful, and rooted in truth. You are disrupting the ordinary, shallow patterns of social interaction. You are creating an experience, not just a moment. And women are hardwired to remember experiences that move them at this level. The power of such compliments extends beyond attraction. It fosters trust, builds respect, and creates a foundation for deeper connection. A woman who feels understood in this way does not just admire you, she feels safe, seen, and inspired. This is the subtle but undeniable difference between a man who merely speaks and a man whose words carry weight. The latter is rare, and rare is magnetic. Ultimately, the lesson is this: the compliments that matter are not those that tickle her ego, but those that honor her mind, her perception, and her inner reality. They are intentional, precise, and rooted in authentic observation. They are the words that tell her she is noticed in ways no one else takes the time to notice, and that, more than anything, creates a sense of emotional intimacy that cannot be fabricated. So, if you want to be the kind of man a woman will never forget, stop giving the compliments everyone else is giving. Look deeper. Listen harder. Speak with awareness. Acknowledge her thoughts, her insights, her essence. When you do this, you are no longer just a man complimenting a woman. You are a man who awakens something in her that she has been longing to experience. And that, more than anything else, is the power older men hold when they speak with intention. Remember this: words are not just sounds, they are instruments of influence, connection, and transformation. Speak with meaning, and watch as your presence becomes unforgettable, not because of what you say superficially, but because of what your words make her feel at the core of her being. The third truth that every man must understand is that women crave recognition for the things that often go unnoticed. Most men focus on what is obvious: the way she looks, the effort she puts into her appearance, the energy she projects, but they overlook the subtleties, the quiet moments, the details that actually define who she is. Women are constantly giving, constantly managing, constantly navigating life's complexities, often without acknowledgement. And when a man notices those small, often invisible things, it creates a profound impact. It tells her that you see her. It tells her that she matters. And that is magnetic. Think about it for a moment. A woman arranges a dinner, manages a project at work, handles a family obligation, or simply maintains her composure in a challenging situation, and few people recognize the effort it takes. Most men will only comment on what is visible on the surface, what is performative, what is easy to observe. But the older man, the man who has learned to slow down and truly observe, notices the subtlety, the patience in her voice, the care in her actions, the thoughtfulness in her choices. This is not just attention. This is understanding, and understanding, more than anything else, communicates value. It says, I see you, not just your surface, not just your beauty, but the layers beneath. There is a psychological principle here. Humans, and especially women, are wired to respond to acknowledgement that aligns with their reality. Compliments that reflect an awareness of effort, intelligence, thoughtfulness, or subtlety resonate far deeper than compliments that speak only to appearance. When a man notices these things, he validates her experience. He tells her that her internal world is significant and worthy of recognition. That validation is powerful because it bypasses superficial attraction and speaks to her core. She feels respected, seen, and even admired, not for what is obvious, but for the hidden work she invests in her life and relationships. Consider the difference between a generic compliment and one that is specific. Saying, "You're amazing," is shallow, broad, and forgettable. Saying, "I noticed the way you handled that situation, calmly and decisively, it was impressive," hits differently. It tells her that you are paying attention. It tells her that your mind is engaged. And when a woman senses that a man's attention is thoughtful and deliberate, she naturally gravitates toward him. She feels understood in a way that few men are capable of providing, and that feeling builds admiration, attraction, and connection in ways that mere charm cannot replicate. There is also a philosophical depth to this idea. Life, especially in the modern world, is noisy. People are constantly vying for attention, competing for superficial recognition, and distracted by the visible and the immediate. The subtle, thoughtful aspects of human behavior are overlooked, underappreciated, and ignored. An older man who understands the value of noticing these subtleties creates an emotional environment that is rare, even revolutionary. He is a presence that acknowledges reality in its depth, a presence that women instinctively recognize as different, grounding, and rare. It is in this quiet recognition, in this acknowledgement of effort and thoughtfulness, that attraction becomes profound. The woman experiences a sense of emotional intimacy and security simply because she feels understood. She associates your presence with clarity, awareness, and emotional intelligence, qualities that create long-lasting connection. Younger men may excite her, but they rarely make her feel seen on this level. They offer noise and distraction, while the older man offers attention and comprehension. Ultimately, the lesson is clear: women are drawn to men who notice the details that no one else sees. They respond to recognition that is precise, sincere, and thoughtful. Complimenting her on what is hidden, subtle, or overlooked communicates that you are not just present physically, you are present mentally, emotionally, and psychologically. That presence, that understanding, is far more compelling than charm, looks, or superficial attention. So if you want to stand apart as a man who is truly memorable, start observing. Notice the little things she does that go unseen. Recognize the effort, intelligence, patience, and subtle power in her actions. Speak to those things, acknowledge them, and watch how your presence becomes unforgettable. Because it is not the grand gestures, not the flashy words, but the quiet recognition of what truly matters that leaves the deepest impression. Remember this: women are not drawn to what is obvious. They are drawn to what is recognized, understood, and valued. Notice her, see her, acknowledge her effort, and you will create a connection that is unshakable and impossible to forget. The fourth truth every man must understand is that women respond to calm, grounded masculinity in a way that younger men rarely achieve. Most men think attraction is about energy, excitement, or performance, but women are wired to sense emotional stability. They are drawn to men who do not just exist in the moment, but carry a consistent presence that offers reassurance and confidence without demanding it. There is an invisible power in calmness, in steadiness, in a presence that does not fluctuate with every passing mood or external circumstance. Older men, who have lived, reflected, and learned to navigate their emotions, possess this naturally, and it is profoundly magnetic. Think about it carefully. A woman interacts with countless people every day. She encounters men who are reactive, impulsive, or anxious. She experiences relationships that are unstable, where emotions swing wildly, and attention is conditional. In the midst of this, a man who is calm, measured, and assured stands out, not because he says more, but because he says less. His words, his actions, his very presence convey a subtle confidence that speaks louder than any display of charm or energy. Women sense this immediately. They feel a gravitational pull toward someone who is emotionally anchored, someone who does not demand, but simply exists as a stable, reliable force. There is a psychological reality here that cannot be ignored. Women, like all human beings, have an innate need for safety, for stability, for certainty in their emotional environment. This does not mean controlling or dictating. They crave a sense that the man they are with can hold himself, can navigate life with clarity, and can provide a secure emotional space. When an older man embodies this, even subtly, it communicates far more than any superficial compliment or flirtation could. It tells her that she can be herself around you, that she is not required to perform or manipulate, that she is being received, acknowledged, and respected in her entirety. It is in this recognition of calm masculine presence that the deeper levels of attraction emerge. Younger men often excite, they may thrill, they may entertain, but they rarely inspire the sense of emotional safety and admiration that comes from constancy. Women notice when a man is unaffected by trivial drama, when his responses are deliberate, when his attention is selective and meaningful. That selectivity, that clarity signals value. It says, without words, that you are a man who has choices, who understands his worth, and who does not chase validation from anyone. This is profoundly attractive because it aligns with the deep psychological needs women have for a partner who can lead through presence rather than dominance, through awareness rather